Hey, Andy,
Mm-hmm.
what's big, bald, and blue all over?
I don't know. Tell me.
Deez nuts.
I was hoping you were going to go basically anywhere else with that.
Welcome to Badwatch. We're back, baby. He's Andy.
That guy's Evan.
And this is Badwatch, a podcast where we watch the shit out of shit. And I would just like to clarify, I don't think blue balls are real. They're a myth designed to harm women. You know what else is big, bald, and blue all over? Are you saying, whoa, are you saying you have blue balls?
I have been suffering. Now, to say it's like the woman's fault or something, that's ridiculous, but having pain in your bits has occurred.
Are you talking about bruised balls or like...
No.
God, ladies and gentlemen, we're one episode back and we're not even like, holy
Welcome
moly.
To the
it's like
jungle.
We never left.
We took a hiatus and we're diving right back into the deep end here.
So let me back up and explain this big, bald, and blue all over joke by saying that we watched Higher Power, a 93-minute science fiction movie that is 93 minutes, and it's on Hulu. And
the
those
93
are the two good things that I have to say about it. Because it's not 2 hours, and it was free.
And the other good part about it is that Evan skipped the first half hour.
That is true. Andy found this, started watching it. My sister walked into the room and was like, "Are you doing this for Badwatch?" And Andy's like, "I have an idea." And so I insisted this is the way. I insisted that we start where he left off without really explaining anything because I'm a busy man.
I mean, it took me approximately a short paragraph to catch him up entirely.
So in this movie, it's basically okay. First of all, there's a really funny thing on the IMDb page, which we'll link to in the description.
Oh, I didn't check the IMDb.
But there's a hilarious... Well, it's the only bit of trivia, but it says, based off the true life story of Dr. Manhattan.
Oh my god! Oh.
Which, first of all, is hilarious because it posits that Dr. Manhattan, the beloved character from Watchmen, is real, and also that this movie is somehow his biopic.
Yeah, and it was
Watchmen does not cover his origin story.
Watchmen is filled with unreliable narrators, and so this is the real.
I saw that and I was like, holy shit, I love this. And there's this little thing too that says 8 out of 13 found this interesting, which...
Somebody made that up. Somebody just made that up.
It's so good. It's such a good goof. Oh boy. So yeah, Higher Power is, very briefly, I'll give you the long and short of it. This man gets a thing implanted in his eyeball. He's
a piece of crap. His family hates him. He's an alcoholic. He
has really thin baby hair.
It's so weird. It's so strange.
Which is very unlike his inspiration, the real Dr. Manhattan, who became blue and was immediately completely hairless, as far as you can tell. And so yeah, at the end of the movie, he becomes this huge blue space figure who protects the Earth from cosmic rays.
Yeah. See, like I could see the writers, or let's just hope it's just one person responsible for this travesty.
No, it was co-written. Let me see what IMDb has to say about
honestly,
this.
Honestly, that feels right.
Matthew Santoro and Julia Fair.
Someone's like, I enjoyed Watchmen, but I want to make my own Watchmen, but with like more layers, like an onion. Let's keep peeling back the layers, and we'll call it Higher Power. So, well, then we could talk about, alcoholism and addiction, and then we could talk about gods, and we could, layers. Let's just make it all work together, guys.
It's either like highly coded Scientology propaganda and John Stedman or Joseph Stedman, the true everyman, according to the Hulu description,
oh my God, that
which
was
was
so
so
ridiculous.
funny. He's sort of like a stand-in for L. Ron Hubbard.
He's an addict. I don't understand how you could be an everyman. That's not how that works.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But it's either Scientology propaganda about this white man who saves the universe and the world and defeats Xenu or whatever the fuck Scientologists
I believe that is the name, yeah.
Yeah. Or it's just a very poorly written addiction metaphor allegory.
Also with a whole bunch of utilitarianism for the greater good sort of stuff.
Yeah. Like someone watched the first season of The Good Place and didn't get to the end where they learned that, spoiler alert, they're actually in the bad place. Bum bum bum. And he was like, I'm gonna do this in a movie, and Dr. Manhattan's gonna be there. And, oh yeah. I'm gonna call my friend Julia. Let's get this down. So, Andy, since I missed the first 20 minutes, tell me what I missed. What's going on with Joseph Stedman and his soft, fine baby hair, and he looks like a chubby Joe Walsh.
It's such a weird, you see him and you're like, this guy looks like other people that are more famous. And that might be his
he seems to be, he does look like he was genetically engineered so you would mistake him for a more famous actor, which... That is to say he's not ugly and he's not terrifically handsome.
He's also not a great actor. He's
also
okay,
honestly, I just was so distracted by his fine, thin baby hair. It was very strange. It was a very odd choice for his character because he's like a security guard who's trying to stay sober, but no, he's got this shitty rock star haircut.
It is honestly distracting. Can we call him Baby Hair for the rest of the episode?
Yes, please. Let's call him Baby Hair.
Joe Stedman, aka Baby Hair. So honestly, I watched it. I watched the first half hour. That was like a week and a half ago. So I don't fully remember, but I do remember they're just like, Baby Hair is very sad. His wife is gone, maybe dead, probably dead.
And what I could gather when I jumped in is that his wife died of cancer.
Oh, right, yeah.
His wife died of cancer.
He didn't give her cancer like the real Dr. Manhattan, though. In this Dr. Manhattan, he did not.
See, that's, Alan Moore and his unreliable narrators. I tell you what. But his wife died of cancer because, and you know this because you see her as very bald in several flashbacks.
Super makeup.
And
really
they have two daughters. One is blonde and is not an addict, and one is brunette and is an addict. Mm-hmm. And that is the extent of their personalities, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it's the color of their hair and their status as addicts.
And they're sad.
Or not.
And they're sad.
They're generally very sad about the loss of their mother and their father being an everyman shithead.
It's touched on very briefly. There's some minor flashbacks, and then he tries to save the one daughter. He tries to save his daughter. That's the whole focus of family. But it's just.
And to give you some insight, listeners, I only watched the last 2/3 of this film, and I still thought it was too long. So
Evan was he was sighing. He's like,
it's very. It's just so. It feels like such a hatchet job.
And it's heavy-handed too.
Exceptionally heavy-handed.
Just very. Yes.
It's like that boss fight in Super Smash Brothers. Just heavy hands.
You're fired. I don't know. That is not acceptable.
That's the thing, right? You fight the two big hands?
Yes, you do, but that's...
Okay. I thought so. It's been a while since I hit the video games. Now, so the wife dies. Oh Joseph Stedman either falls off the wagon or tries to set fire to the wagon. He has a serious, I think, drinking problem.
I think so.
At some point in the course of his addiction, he leaves his daughters. And I was never quite sure why that was such a big deal, because when we meet his daughters, they are both fully grown, functional adults.
Yeah.
Who, by that point, reasonably, it could be expected to live on their own. Um, so I don't know quite what was going on there, but he's trying to work on himself. He's going to meetings.
Going to meetings. He's got his tokens.
Yeah, he has a job as a security guard. He's working the night shift. And it turns out, though, his blonde daughter is, while she's sad, she is doing well. She has a fancy PhD boyfriend. Put a pin in that.
Nurse. They mentioned that, but like never. She's a nurse, and like that's all they say about it.
Again, she exists mostly on paper.
Just a flat plane of a person.
I'm not even sure. Does the blonde one have any lines of dialogue, or is it just like her like reacting to scenes of her father on the news fucking shit up?
In flashbacks,
where she's like,
she's there.
She gets very little to do, which is probably okay. She's not very good. But yeah, the PhD physicist boyfriend.
He's been on TV, and he's been on talking TV about the end times.
Yes, and this is something that I didn't realize until maybe the movie was almost had 10 minutes left.
Yeah, they don't show it again until they show it in the beginning, and then they don't show it again until the very end. So this
PhD boyfriend, Dr. Science, there's apparently a deadly cosmic ray shooting through outer space headed directly for Earth.
Somehow he knows about it.
And somehow he knows about it. He spotted it. He's telling the world.
Which that's not how light works.
Stop it.
So it's like we wouldn't know it. That's not how that works. But
yeah. It's really strange. It's also very beautiful. That was maybe my favorite sequence in the movie. It was like watching a little animated bit from Cosmos, where just like you see this beautiful dancing red beam of light.
I can catch you that. They did scale up the movie for the epicness at the end. That was kind of cool. I can grant them that. They spent that CGI money.
Yeah, those poor VFX people. Oh boy. But so she's dating Dr. Science and she's a nurse, and then meanwhile the brunette daughter is not doing so well. She's also sad and is also an addict like her father. And
he's saddled with guilt, just riddled with it.
Yeah, and is she into meth or heroin? It's unclear what
she's shooting stuff.
Exactly her drug of choice is.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't matter. She's an addict. It's
yeah, that's really all that is given to her is that you're an addict and a messed up junkie and you're terrible. So go be terrible on this weird side street where you're buying drugs. Now, then when I started watching, I see Joseph Stedman get this thing implanted in his eyeball, and then
this is when things sort of like just went off. They just got a little crazy.
Yes,
just kept going from there.
He wakes up in an alley and he's having these like insane migraine headaches, and he hears a voice in his head, and he's like struggling down the alley, and the voice in his head is then triggering images of his daughters and telling him like, if you don't do what I tell you, they're in danger. And there's like, what is crazy,
I do one thing they do though. At first it's like you hear this voice and you see this who is a scientist guy talking to him, and
he's an evil man in the chair.
And
chairman.
They cut to a black screen. They go, trial 1, breaking the beast. And it's like, oh, this movie is taking way too seriously.
You see the letters appear on the screen as if someone is typing it in real time, and it's like, oh boy, okay. But yeah, the man in the chair is talking to Joseph Stedman, the true everyman, and he's like, you need to do what I say or I'm gonna fuck up your daughters. And you cut to the brunette addict who's being very closely tailed by 2 anonymous like white guys in leather jackets.
Yeah, it cuts to like armed. A GoPro sort of thing, and then there's also so he's like being shown this, right? So they've broken like they're sort of breaking like sort of the rules, because it's like, oh, so if he's there, the guys are following her, then it should be their camera view. But then it cuts to like 3 other shots of cameras that are following them all walking together. So it's like
very strange.
So there's like 100 people following this one addict. That is the
impression you get, is that every man who is not Joseph Stedman and the man in the chair is following his daughters and begging for an opportunity to kill them.
It's so insane. It's like they cut to so many shots. I was like, what is it? Wait, so there's like an army following them.
Okay, and what I missed was Joseph's baby hair, was he like kidnapped and drugged, and that was how he got this implant in his eyeball?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, someone was sitting in his car. He was upset about his daughter, so he wasn't paying attention to his surroundings. And he got in his car, and then they choked him out, and then took him to a place and did this thing. And then he woke up in a trunk. It's a very strange situation.
Yeah. So he wakes up from the trunk in this alley. He's stumbling around. Apparently anytime the man in the chair plays images in his brain, it like really hurts, and so he's like screaming his head off. And this woman like runs up, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" He's like, "Call the police, there's a man in my head." And then the man in the chair is like, "Look, on the ground in front of you, open the box." And inside the box is a gun. He's like, "Shoot her in the head, do it." And I was watching this and I was thinking, this feels so much like what everyone accused Black Sabbath of putting in their records if you played them backwards. Like, this is put the gun to your head, pull the trigger. And then so he picks up the gun because he wants to save his daughters, and he points it at the woman who's trying to help him, who's like, "Oh no, don't shoot me. We're the only two people in this alley." And he does pull the trigger, but it's a toy or something. And then she tases the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Because she's in on it, ladies and gentlemen. She's the man in the chair's assistant.
And then we get a couple more shots of her, like, later, and it's like, I don't, like, why?
Yeah,
like, there was no reason for her to show up ever again.
The entirety of her role is this scene in the alley, and then she's sitting at a computer screen doing computer
making
stuff.
Faces. That's it.
Making faces and reacting to Joseph Stedman's.
I think she has, like, one more line. I was like, I don't know why
goofy.
I think someone's goofy. Like, I think you're hot, stay in the photo.
She's an attractive lady, and she has cool glasses when she's at her computer station, but that's like all she gets.
Yeah,
I don't even think you know her name ever.
No.
No one talks to her. It's weird.
Asian lady one. I don't know.
It's really strange. So then Joseph Stedman is given these this sort of Saw scavenger hunt of things to do.
Okay. So then he wakes up. I can't remember if this is like the second time he's woken up in a trunk. But after he stays, wakes up in a trunk again, and he's got so he gets out of the car. Well, first, so he's in the trunk, and he has his phone, so he decides to call 911. And actually, I think after breaking the beast, I think this is when they go trial 2 confirmation.
Yeah, and he calls 911, and the 911 operator's like, "If you call this number again, we will kill your family," or something.
And he's like, "Oh!"
So everyone is in on this, except his daughters and Joseph Stedman. I think
they just intercepted his phone, but no, it's just bonkers. Then he's like, "Okay, you got me." So then he gets out.
Okay, if they intercepted his phone, why did they answer as if they were 911 dispatch?
I know, right? I don't.
Why
understand.
not just call? Just say, "Listen, don't call 911. Don't call anyone, or we'll kill everything you care about." But no, they they lead him on 911. What is your emergency? And they're like, "Don't call this number again, shithead."
Listen, baby hair, get it together.
Listen, baby hair. You've got a lot on your plate, but we'll kill your daughters anyway. He's in a car, and he's at a facility of some kind of science facility, right?
Well, then he's like, the voice in his head is like, "Now do you understand?" And then he's like, "Okay, go into the seat and drive away." And he tells him where to go. And then he goes to the CEO's, the company that he works for, his home. And it's 6 p.m. at night, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's we later learn, because right after he goes to this guy's house, he goes to his security guard job to relieve the daytime security guard, and when he gets there, the daytime security guard says, "Where you been, Joe? It's 8:40," and which is hilarious only because he's at this old man's house, and it's 7:30, and it's completely dark. The man's dead asleep.
Yeah, it was so strange. Anyway, so he goes into this old man's house. He breaks in using Asian lady has she has a line here. Asian lady 1 says, put the black thing along the lock, and it unlocks the door. He goes inside, and they have a drone following him, which just seems sort of strange when they can see through his eyes. But I was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, but
So then
later we learn the drone is armed and dangerous.
Yeah, just...
Even though also Joseph Stedman is armed and dangerous. So.
Yeah, he's armed and dangerous, the drone's armed and dangerous, they have a full-on army of people supporting this effort, and it's just ridiculous. So he navigates to the house, they tell him where to go.
Yeah, now remind me, where does he get the thumb?
That's from his boss.
So he's in this man's house to get his thumb, is that correct?
Well, he's in this man's house to confirm that his DNA is the DNA match that they needed for their experimental system thing that his company was working on.
Yeah, it's some weird super soldier mind control BS, and it also verges very dangerously near eugenics Aryan Brotherhood territory because baby hair is a pretty white dude with blonde hair.
I guess I wasn't taking it that angle.
It could have.
You can.
I was like, this movie could really be going places. Thankfully, it doesn't. But it sort of flirts with the idea where it's like,
they trample enough around here. He's the one. This is the way.
This is the way. And then, he cuts off this very old man's thumb who's so old he's asleep at 7:30.
Well, so he gets inside. They open the safe, and he gets the laptop out, and then he puts his finger on the laptop, and it's like match, and the president's CEO's like, "What? You're the match?" And then he's gonna get the drop on him. The drone shoots, kills him dead, and then his scientist man in baby hair's head goes, "Get his thumb."
Yeah, the man in the chair tells Baby Hair to cut off his boss's thumb, and he puts it in a little bag, because when he woke up the second time, he had a little backpack full of fun goodies that he's going to use on his missions. And then there's the great scene where he shows up at work. "Where you been, Joe? It's 8:40. And it gets even better because he's walking through his job, and this place is packed. It's like I don't know if everyone there works nights. It's
hundreds of people. It was ridiculous because then he puts on. They're like, put on the mask. So he pulls out a full-on gas mask and the drone.
Yeah, a full-on gas mask, and then this is the bullshit. So the drones fly in through the ventilation system, I think.
And there's a ventilation system. There's 8 drones that disperse throughout the facility.
Yeah,
and they all start spraying gas. And then everyone instantly dies.
Yeah, and this gas, for whatever reason, it somehow interacts with oxygen to kill people instantly. And you see their flesh melting off.
It was insane.
What was that?
It reacts with people at the subatomic level. And I was like, so what? You just did a face mask that's not... I don't understand why it didn't kill because
you see the people he's talking to, their skin sort of deteriorates. I'm like, well, the mask isn't going to do shit for Joseph Stedman in that case. It's really dumb.
His downy baby hair protected him.
Yeah, he survives, and then he's walking through the factory with the man in the chair giving him directions. And then one of the guards...
Transfiguration, by the way. Now we're in trial 3.
Okay, god damn it. No one cares, Andy. And then there's a dead employee, I think another security guard on the floor of this facility.
One of hundreds, yeah.
Who did not die from the subatomic sound wave gas, whatever the heck it was.
Gas of doom.
But then Joseph Stedman takes care of him. He goes up into this weird space pod thing where
There's the most ridiculous space. It is so absurd. And it's this giant chamber that has a ridiculous walkway and they cut to different security cameras. There are 8 security cameras looking at the single walkway. It's very strange.
Andy was very concerned about the number of camera angles in this movie. I quickly lost interest in keeping track because I was like, yeah, there's a shit ton and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what you're talking about. But he
enjoy the little things.
He gets inside this big space pod thing and he turns it on, and this thus begins his transformation into Dr. Manhattan, where he can suddenly shoot light out of his fingertips when he gets emotional.
But the thing is, he doesn't fully turn. He's actually not yet. So he has he's buried inside him.
He has not reached his final form, so to speak.
So this whole building explodes in a giant explosion, and he survives because of reasons. And then
he's in this magic space pod. but he
Okay.
survives and then wakes up in a body bag on the couch in his
right.
apartment, which
Yeah,
I
they
enjoyed
went-
immensely.
That was great because they went and got him somehow in this destroyed facility. That was the thing. That, I was like, how did they get there? I don't know. Like, they didn't show their recovery efforts.
Nope. And there you do see a brief news clip of like, something has happened in downtown. A massive explosion at a government laboratory. And then you see
Hundreds
Joseph
dead.
Stedman struggling to get out of this body bag. And I was like, oh, he's emerging from the chrysalis. Because before he was an ugly caterpillar.
But he still has that downy hair.
Still has that soft, fine baby hair. He wakes up, man in the chair, continues to threaten his family. And he keeps, like, you learn that he's continually trying to goad baby hair into an even... like bigger reaction because that emotional impetus is what is going to launch him into Dr. Manhattan phase.
Yeah, his
and is this
emotional
where
outbursts.
we meet Nico?
Nico, the drug guy?
The drug dealer, sex dungeon person.
Mm-hmm. And there is a Falcon Punch in this movie.
Yes, so the man in the chair tells baby hair, he's like, he shows in his head, he's like, this is Nico. Nico's the one who got your daughter hooked on drugs. Nico.
And phonics.
He also,
like, the outrage.
but first he taught her how to read because you're such a shitty dad. You couldn't even do that right. And the whole time, man in the chair is so mean to baby hair. Which, because, and you learn, like, I think you're supposed to think, oh, well, if he's mad at Man in the Chair, that will help him become Dr. Manhattan. But I genuinely think, like, no, Man in the Chair is just really not nice. And also,
baby hair really sucks. Mad. I think the scientist is actually, like, he's jealous. He's upset with him that he's a match for this because he's too stupid. Like, the rest of this guy's, like, he doesn't vocalize basically ever again. He's just grunting and screaming in anger.
Yeah, and
so
Man
ridiculous.
in the Chair, you learn at some point he used to work with the very old CEO who was asleep at 7:30. And because the CEO is like talking to Joseph Stedman, knowing that Man in the Chair can hear him, and he's saying, I told you it was too dangerous. This is why we shut it down. You can't have it. And Man in the Chair's like, oh, but I will. And then, so he's taken Joseph Stedman on this journey around town. He like kills some police officers, I think. Which I gotta say is a bad way to get sympathy for your protagonist.
He punches. I think he punches a cop, and then
I don't even remember why. I think he stole a bike or a car or something.
Yeah, something like that. But then the scientist, it was a great moment. The scientist leads in. Amazing. He's like, but his face doesn't move at all.
And there's another point in this whole sequence where a young cop like runs up to Joseph Stedman, who's like fallen on his back as a result of this fight. Joseph Stedman, baby hair, just raises his arm and launches this cop over the nearest building. And Man in the Chair is like, collateral damage, just keep going. And I was like, holy shit, that man probably had a family. But he finds Nico's little dungeon because Nico, for a man who runs a sex dungeon, wears a lot of eye makeup and is ostensibly interested in like S&M stuff with women, he comes across as very effeminate and very like he wanted to do like his take on the Joker, but it just came across.
You know what? Yes.
It's a little. It's very hard to get a read on Nico.
Also, I think maybe Nico also was a partial scientist and was doing studies into epilepsy because there were just hundreds of
and he's in this shitty basement that he calls home, and he and I was like, oh, I guess Nico lives inside a Nine Inch Nails video because there's this like metal grating, these flashing lights, there's this weird dubstep music, and there's all these half-naked women like behind these fences.
Very strange.
And Joseph Stedman is like walking through with this gun, and he finds the one man in the place who is clearly Nico, and he's yelling at him and pointing his gun. He's like, are you Nico? Are you Nico? And Nico responds to this by snapping a Polaroid picture, which apparently this one additional flash amongst all this the strobing and epileptic seizure warnings is enough to put baby hair over the edge. And then Nico and him have this weird fight scene, and this is where
show him a video too.
He shows him, he like puts on the TV this video of Nico giving the addict daughter a dose of drugs and then I think raping her. They don't show that, thank God.
Yeah.
But like it's very clear like he drugged her in order to like get her hooked and like so he could have his way with her. It's really gross. And then understandably this triggers baby hair's magic powers, and he does a falcon punch of Nico through a wall. And doesn't he also like blow this place up? He's blowing places up all over. Yeah.
And I just have my next note is then the scientist fella starts yelling at Joe about his wife is dead and how he's useless, and then just slaps the ground. And
you couldn't even keep your wife alive. What's the matter with you? You don't know how to cure cancer?
And then he goes, see, Joe, the angrier you are, the more powerful you are. It's like...
Yeah, and so he finally reaches his final form soonish at this point, right?
Well, so now they send Joe after the sex dungeon. So then after that, they go and his other daughter is kidnapped. With her boyfriend. They
kidnap the daughter and her Dr. Science boyfriend. He goes to save them, and like
he tells them there's a bomb. There's a bomb. It'll blow up, and if the cops find it before you do, like you're like everyone's dead. And so he starts like zooming through the city and a beam of light, and they're like, the scientist is tracking his progress. Is like yes. It's so over the top.
You have to think that at some point he's just furiously masturbating, watching baby hair turn blue and like basically become a lightning god. But yeah, baby hair races to the factory, finds his daughter and Dr. Science. The bomb, I don't know, he like gets rid of it.
He tosses it up and throws it into an airplane.
Yeah, he throws it into the sky, and then the shrapnel hits an airplane and tears the wing off.
And he captures the airplane and saves them. But then he sends it not like on the street. He sends it
so he's so bad at being a superhero because he guides the plane down to the street, and then behind him he notices that some additional shrapnel like took out a like L train CTA subway train overpass, and so he uses his light to make it so that train doesn't crash. And then rather than just leave this airplane on the street, he makes it fly up to the top of a building where it barely fits.
It's like, you're not good at things. What are you doing, bud?
And I was like, let's hope that service elevator up there is working, because you really just made their day even worse.
And the plane like sank in a little bit. Like it was like, that was a poor choice.
I really thought the plane was going to fall off. I think that was in the script, but they didn't have the budget for it. But then after saving,
he's not good at this.
After saving the train and the plane, he goes to his daughter, and that's part. Then
you see like an army of dudes has surrounded them, so he like encases them in a bubble of light.
Yeah, but she still gets shot because she dies. Don't worry, she comes back. Everyone.
Yeah, of course. But didn't the boyfriend kill her?
Yeah, I think the boyfriend, like after baby hair took care of like the army dudes, he and blonde hair daughter were having a moment, and Dr. Science just straight up shoots her. From behind. He's like, well, I wanted a moment with my fake dad too. And baby hair I think kills him, right? As a response.
He snaps into a rage, and he's reached highest emotional output.
What finally really does it is there's this really like the brunette daughter does not catch a break in this film. She's an addict. She's a victim of rape, and then the two men who've been following her, they find her like drugged out of her mind, nodding off, and they prop her up and just pull the trigger with the gun next to her head at point blank range. I was like,
he's watching it through his eye. Right?
That was the one moment in the movie where I was like, holy shit. Like, and it wasn't because the effects were especially good. It was just such a jarring shift in tone where like, you just saw this woman's head explode. How do you feel about that? And then ascends to a higher plane and stops the cosmic rays.
Yeah, then they go to like this. It was, I think, a pretty cool CGI thing. Like his brain becomes the Earth, and like he's just got like a giant. You like see like the shape
What's
of
the
his chest.
guy? Who was the guy in Power Rangers? His face appeared on that screen.
Zeldar?
Zoltor?
Something. I feel like it's Z something.
There's a Z in there, but that big white face that takes up the whole wall in Power Rangers, he looked like that, but it was in outer space. So it is pretty cool.
Zordon,
thank you. Zordon. He looks like Zordon. And he protects the Earth from the cosmic death ray. He has enough power.
Kills the scientist, dude.
He kills all the bad people, but he resurrects his 2 daughters. The sky is like very purpley blue.
And it's like pulsing because it's like saying "I love you" is the pulses.
Yeah, it's some Morse code thing. Yeah,
and initially I was like, they're not doing Morse code, and then they just kept doing it. I was like, okay, they're doing Morse code.
Yeah, he's flashing Morse code, which of course there was probably a scene where he taught his daughters Morse code because, as we know, everyone in TV and movies knows Morse code.
So he loves his resurrected daughters, and he's saved the world.
Yes,
it was for the greater good.
And in the final minutes, you see a clip of this person, this anonymous face on a computer giving directions to the man in the chair, and then you zoom in on this face, and the shot widens, and you realize that it was Dr. Science, Baby Hare's boyfriend, who was a PhD guy. Who knew that man in the chair used to work on this super soldier project, and he knew that would save the world, which I guess they're trying to say like he's also the hero of the movie because he did what was necessary to protect the whole Earth. It's really fucked up. It's really weird.
Yeah. All powered through by Baby Hare Stedman.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But he is finally bald at the end.
Yeah, it's just
because
it's the
I can't stress this enough. It's the kind of hair that it seems like it's definitely fake. Like there's no reason a man his age has hair so fine and so baby soft. My guess is that he has had
his conditioner.
He has had a lot of work done to keep his flowing locks intact.
But flowing locks implies that there's like a lot of hair. It's thin. It's thin hair.
It is like a wisp of a thing up there hanging around his ears. I feel
it is distracting throughout. It really is. I definitely thought about it myself.
It's so distracting. But yeah, so that's higher power. And there's one point, to get back to the addiction allegory, there's one point where the man in the chair is like, I am your higher power now, Joseph Stedman. And I was like, okay. Speaking of heavy-handed, this feels like Smash Brothers.
Why? You did not need to do a callback to that. 100% you did not need to do that.
Good watch. So
what's your good watch?
My good watch. So these are very strange times we're living in, and we're all supposed to shelter in place and stuff like that, and stay safe and healthy. And if you're up for it, there's actually a really good movie on Netflix about a pandemic virus thing, and it's sort of like a very interesting take at on a post-apocalyptic story where it focuses on this one family that is trying to survive this pandemic, and they have this farm where they live and they don't have any electricity, but then a stranger shows up and things start happening as a result. And it's like a very micro look. I think it was very low budget, so there's only like 5 people in the whole movie, but they do a really good job. It's called It Comes at Night. It's starring Joel Edgerton, and you never watched Girls, so this will be lost on you, but Marnie's boyfriend at the beginning of Girls, who eventually left Girls, he is in this movie as well. And I thought he was quite good in Girls, and he's quite good in this movie as well. And I think Joel Edgerton is pretty reliably great in everything. But yeah, it comes at night, and it's sort of about how, even though there's this pandemic, there are still worse things that humans can do to each other, which it's really interesting and dark. But I really, really liked it at the same time. So.
Okay. I think I need to check this out. Sounds interesting. My good watch is Lie to Me.
Tim Roth.
Who I really enjoy this show. I have been binging it. I have with my couple-month-old son here. I've been staying up late at night with him because he's a no sleep champion, and so I've been just blitzing through this, and I really have quite enjoyed it. I don't know the whole premise is he is a psychological interviewer dude and is a human lie detector and can detect micro expressions, and so it's a lot of fun because you can play with that a lot. Also, it feels very meta because as I'm watching these actors play these it's all right, so I need you to make this facial expression. It's very interesting as I was just thinking about how much fun the actors must have when they're okay, so try and make your face do this at this moment. I wonder if they do that or not. It's a cool system where they get to play with this whole quote real science sort of thing. But yeah, so he solves mysteries. It's a crime drama, and Tim Roth does a really good job.
Tim Roth is great. So ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Blue balls or not.
Hope you didn't have them.
Yeah, I hope your balls are white. What's the opposite of blue balls? Red? I don't understand.
Just normal.
I've never understood.
Veiny, triumphant bastards.
Oh god. Okay, we've got this. Oh dear.
That's a movie reference.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe to our show and head over to iTunes and leave a nice review and give us all the stars. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/badwatch, which Andy and I have not discussed this, but we are going to be resuming our Patreon, which during our hiatus, we have paused the billing for that.
We generously canceled.
Yeah.
Because we're not monsters.
And, now that we're in season 2, and I was thinking about this, we need to spin it as we're in season 2 because Serial podcast does seasons and everyone likes that show, even when they take really long breaks. So.
Well, there you go.
Here we are.
Well, you got to leave the people wanting more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Badwatch season 2. But I personally I'm dying to go back to the island. I miss my lost ripoff. I miss the soldier girl and the signs and the the angry nurse. Oh, I miss it. I miss them all.
I have blissfully not thought of the island.
There's been days during the pandemic. It's like, maybe I should watch The Island. That would be a nice change of pace.
You know what? You called me a monster for my behaviors. I can't believe you. Hypocrite.
But yeah, so we're back for now. Andy had his baby. I'm still here doing my thing, Mm-hmm. And he's Andy.
That guy's Evan.
He's a pizza rat.
What?
I thought we were doing an improv game where we sort of name associate. Okay, it's fine. I'll give you notes later. You could have said I'm an alley cat. And
what I said was what? Because I don't know what you're doing.
Pizza Rat says what? And this is Badwatch, the Baywatch podcast.
We jiggle and we run.